There are secrets within these cards. Not the secrets you might think. The secrets of our own lives, held before us. Questions left for us to ponder. Mysteries that we have the pleasure of solving throughout the course of this little go-round. Sometimes seeing our lives before us can be intimidating, strike fear, cause an adverse reaction. But if we're open to that information and let it transform us into who we were always going to be, it can be incredibly magical. So what is it that you are going to see in these 22 stories of your own life? Hey everybody, it's Theia and welcome back to Garden Goddess Tarot. Today is episode 3 of Garden Arcana, where Candy from Candy Soul and Soil and I are going out into our garden and we are finding the energy of the tarot out there somewhere. So today, being episode 3, we are working on from the major arcana number 7, the Chariot, number 8, we're doing strength at 8, and number 9, the Hermit. The Chariot, La Force, strength, and the Hermit. These are who we're looking for today out in the garden. And I don't know, I feel like this one's gonna be a bit tricky. Like, it's, for me, it's, so far it's trickier than the other ones, but we're gonna do it. I've got a few ideas. My tree cards weren't as helpful this week. The Hermit is a banyan tree, which definitely does not grow here. Strength is a mangrove, which is a beautiful idea, but again, doesn't grow here. And I don't really think I have anything quite that type of tree, but I've got a, maybe we'll bust that one out. And then ash tree for Chariot as life force energy, which is really interesting and very, very fun. However, my ash tree just died. Very sad. So it was one of the ones we had to cut down, but I like it there. So we'll find the Chariot elsewhere, but just know the Chariot was there until it got emerald ash borer and died. But otherwise, this week does give me a great opportunity to spend some time with the Marielle Tarot, which we all know I love, and the Chariot card in the Marielle, and subsequently the sevens in the minor arcana, which are all related to the Chariot. It'll be a fun time to really get into those and that idea and how it relates to work in the garden, which I think is going to be very fun. So strap in, put your rubber boots on, actually get a sweater today and maybe a jacket. It is cold again. It got down to 0 last night. I don't think it frosted. I had to cover I just planted all my tomatoes and peppers, like literally yesterday, hence why I'm so bloody exhausted. And then my dad's like, oh, by the way, it's gonna freeze tomorrow night. And I'm like, no. Should have heard me yelling at this guy. It's far too late for this kind of nonsense. Anyway, tomatoes and peppers, if they get frosted, they're toast. They're done. And I've been growing them from seeds since like April, so I'm like, no, my precious babies. Anywho, so I had to cover them with little solo cups and rocks and like plant pots to keep the frost off them if it frosted. It was pretty hilarious, but everybody seems to have survived, but it is still lingeringly cold outside. So grab a sweater, let's head out to the land of the flowers. And here we have my 2 wolves. This will come up later, but these are my babies and they represent perfectly the Chariot analogy. It's a bit on the nose, actually. I find strength as we head outside, bit of personal protection, hanging on my door, a happy face to greet me every time I return home. And following not shortly after, a patch of hermits growing in the garden. This is Lily of the Valley, a beautifully scented flower that blooms at this time of year Its little berries are very poisonous, but I find the flowers look just like little hermit lamps, snuggled among the foliage. An association for the lilac didn't immediately come to mind, but I just had to show you how blousy and fluffy and beautiful these flowers are, and really, you can't help but just shove your face in them when you find them. I do need to make some lavender sugar, actually, with some of the purple ones. But it's just being underneath this tree is just a sensory experience that is I look forward to every single year as it comes around. And I guess in a way they kind of look like little snowballs, which kind of brings us into our next plant, which is the snowball bush, which I guess very much is hermit. Snowballs made from the snow-capped mountains where the hermit resides. It works. I like it. And checking in on our fool as well. This is that rowan tree I mentioned last week, and it has bloomed. It's a fool association as well, and it's gorgeous and stunning. And I did cut out that big dead portion of it, so it should do much better now. We're gonna check in on our little hierophant sanctuary, which has turned into more of a hermitage at this point. With the frosts, a lot of the plants had to be kept under cover, and between the cold frames and my shed here, they've been hermiting, they've been protected, they've been contained and withdrawn, searching inside themselves while they avoid the elements outside. I do very much look forward to being able to plant them out, though. It's gonna be great. This little patch of lettuce right here is tenacious. These have seeded themselves from last year. I usually let some lettuce go to seed, and just their ability to grow kind of wherever is such strength. That's really on the nose. And these plant supports speak of strength being that backbone for growth, and there's evidence of that all over the garden. And another perspective on strength, or la force, is that, again, soft strength, that determination, that ability to thrive in all situations that is such a Leo thing. And we do know that the strength card is the Leo card, and it is indeed ruled by the sun. But look at these little plants quiver in its presence. Strength card is a very powerful card, and I think I should give it more credit. It's more than just strength, and I often see readers, and I catch myself doing it too, just kind of like landing on strength and calling it strength, and that sort of that. This little fluffy yellow mane also very reminded me of the strength card, like a bright and powerful headdress of status and a warning sign that one is not to be messed with. These tulips, these are the ones from the High Priestess card that we're yet to open, and they look like little purple artichokes, and I think they're my favorite. Hard to say what tulip is my favorite, but they are up there, and they multiplied as well. I only started with a few, and they just keep spreading. So this part of the garden looks very sweet and tidy and gorgeous, and just wonderful this time of year. And it's always covered in bees. Bees really like blue. They see in ultraviolet, and blue is a very attractive color to them. So all of these beautiful blue flowers, which consequently happens to be one of my favorite flower colors in the garden, attracts the bees, and they love it. So we're gonna get to spend some time with some little bees right shortly. Oh, and to my pleasant surprise, I found a moral. This one's it's not super fresh, but it's so cute. It was hiding in the back. I love when I find the little mushroomy treasures hidden amongst the plants and places I didn't expect. Oh look, we found the fool again. It's me. Hi, I'm the fool. Someone let me loose with a shovel. We're getting there. All beautiful gardens start as a hideous pile of dirt, and that's just the truth. So I'm working on one there, and
The bean garden over here is a weird shape and still needs some love, but we're getting there. Widening, growing. Sometimes it's easier to just start a project and slowly work from there instead of trying to conceptualize the entire thing from the beginning, and that's really a very strong point of my gardening ethos. It's like, just start doing something, and then if you've ruined it and made a horrible mess, just fix it until it's good. And that's kind of how the garden ended up the way it is. Those are red tulips. And I generally do not like red in my garden. It's one of the no-no colors. But they grow. They were my grandma's. They, again, tenacity, audacity. It's such a Leo move, having these red tulips, despite my better sensibilities. But they're there, and I enjoy them in their own little weird way. Plus, they match the card very well. Our bee friends, I think initially they struck me as the Chariot, just for their sheer determination and will, and they embody motivation, like thoroughly through and through. Bees just have a purpose and they do it. They do their job, they get it done. Some of them are fast. Bumblers, like these little guys, are not super fast. They just kind of clamber around adorably, but you can't distract them from anything. They're gonna do their job, and that's what they're gonna do, and I respect them for that. I could never be a bee. Not at all. But I could sit in the garden and watch them for hours and hours and hours on my little bugleweed here, which is also a very Chariot plant, actually. It spreads and grows pretty substantially. I only ever started with 6 little plugs of this, and it just went everywhere. And you should know, if you're gonna buy a plant, if it has the word weed in the title, it's gonna be a spreader. But at the same time, it's beautiful. I love the dark purple leaves, especially at night. In the sun, they're kind of washed out, but they look gorgeous. They have these little pillars of blue flowers that just shine. And it's a great ground cover, because when it's growing, none of the other weeds are. So it's like a selective weed, which I quite enjoy. But yeah, it's very, very Chariot energy. It's a goer and a doer, and I enjoy it. And here we found the Fool again. Actually, almost. It's like a Fool Chariot mix. This little wish bundle of dandelion seeds. Because the seeds themselves, they're like individual chariots on the move. On their own little journeys. About to go on an adventure. Which again, is very Fool energy as well. So yes, dandelion wishes are a Fool Chariot combo, in my professional opinion. Someone write that down. These are a gorgeous patch of bachelor's buttons, or perennial cornflower, and I love them. They're gorgeous. They're from my mom's garden, and I don't know, I guess they could be kind of strengthy. They're a strong plant. They're a doer as well. They bloom early in the spring, like right now, but you can chop them back afterwards and they'll just come back again. Very strength, very tenacious. And they came from my mom, and my mom's a Leo too, so it works. They kind of look like little lion's mouths as well. They're little blue teeth. It kind of works. Maybe a bit of a stretch. The peonies are about to burst. These are my grandma's ones, and I just love the little circular, vibrant, jewel-toned balls that come out of nowhere. It's stunning. And this shed, this is a hermit shed if I've ever seen one. This is covered in Virginia creeper, and it is the most stunning thing. It's so magical. It looks like it contains multitudes. It's full of secrets. Kind of spooky, especially at night. And I'm not even sure I can get this door open, actually. It might have fused itself shut, but yeah, this gorgeous thing is a wonderful hermit shed. And a mountain of green foliage that goes a bright red in the fall. It's so pretty. Oh, and there's my little wild wolf, Arthur baby. I came out a few hours later in the evening just to kind of get the color better. I wanted to showcase the tulips in their best light and also show you that they did survive the frost. They've stood up again. They're living their best life, looking towards the sun. These black frilly ones are definitely something else. I'd never seen any quite like this before. Again, very lion's mouth about them, so there you have it. But the garden, it is just really gorgeous in the evening, golden hour. There's husband on his chariot. Cut the grass, which grows like stink these days. Yeah, no, the garden, I don't know, it's incredible this time of year. I really lean into the spring with mine. The summer it starts to get a bit sad, but the tulips are at their best, and I feel like, why not capture them now when they are? Because they are fleeting, like everything. Nothing lasts. By next week, these may even be gone. So, I will revel in them while they are here at the moment. My little artichoke tulips, like, look at that. Is that not a jewel of nature right there? That just grew on its own. Can you believe? Here's another little bee doing its thing in the lamium. Working away, living its best life. The gardens really do look all well and good from the road, but I think the real magic does come when you, like, get right in there, get in on your hands and knees, get a bit dirty, and just spend some time watching the plants change and grow, watching the insects and the bees and how they interact with the flowers. Oh my gosh, my 2 wolves, look at that. There's Smudge. There's the little ego right there. And the crazy boy behind, just doing whatever. And me, Reason, the charioteer, trying to keep them under control. I wouldn't have it any other way. Oh, we're about to have some Granny's bonnets. My columbine's about to burst. The garden has so much potential. And I get kind of sad this time of year, right when the tulips are about to go over, because I've got this weird sense of ending and loss, which I'm sure we will touch on when we hit the death card next week. But just, it's relevant now, but it's just that more will come, and I know more will come, but I always kind of forget, because there is like a little mini grieving period I have for each one of those tulips that loses its petals, but it'll be back next year. Everything comes back. It comes around in one form or other. And it's a cycle of learning, and I have to relearn it every year. I have to feel that feeling, that little bit of sadness, and know that, no, it's okay. It was wonderful while it was here, and you enjoyed it while it was here, and you appreciated it while it was here. And it'll be back, but you'll see it again. It's fine. Just let it go. Have your time. Every day is different in the garden, and it's a reflection of life. More hermit lamps here on the Solomon seal as well, by the way. Super gorgeous. They haven't quite opened yet. They're like little nuggets at the moment, but they'll open into these little beautiful white bells, and very hermit's lamp in mass. And the little yellow flame that burns within it, which is a fracture of your own soul. So I guess yellow's alright. Maybe I'll come around to having yellow in the garden. We'll see. Still not sure about red, though. So that's where I've so far found Strength, the Chariot, and the Hermit in my spring garden.
Alright, we're back inside. It's bloody cold out there today. Whew. Fingers, I can feel it. Yeah. I don't know, it's very interesting. I feel like for me, especially with the chariot is like the body of the garden. It is the vehicle. It is the place that things happen. It is what carries you forward, creating the momentum. And I think with the garden, it's kind of just a representation of it all, kind of together, you know? With our, you know, the 2 wolves analogy from the Marielle Tarot as well. It's the mixture, contrast, coming together of, like, the wild side, the uncontrolled desire, the crazy dreams, the feelings of being free, you know, one's natural instincts in the garden, and then the white wolf being that ego that's keeping it in check. And then there's the ego and societal expectations, what people think a garden should and should not look like, how many weeds are acceptable, what to plant where, you know,
the rules of gardening, much like the rules of life and everything, right? That's the white wolf or dog. And then the black one is the raw and wild aspects of the garden, and those two come up against each other everywhere in the garden. That's the whole thing. The whole thing is an interplay between these two energies, and then there's me, the gardener, reason that, where is it? The guy driving, trying to balance the wildness of the garden and society's expectations of control and design, and it's that reason in between is what leaves its mark on the garden and makes it what it is. It's, you know, not a patch of weeds on the side of the lawn. Being the charioteer and harnessing the benefits of both of those inner aspects of the self and the garden is imperative when it comes to being able to function and keep your sanity while it's in the garden, because as soon as one of the other ones starts to take over, you lose control and it just gets to be too much. And a lot of that's the thing. Every time I put in a new garden bed, my mother-in-law is like, what have you done? You've just made more work for yourself. But if you can keep that balance and like keep things under control, it's actually not too bad. So anywho, that's I guess the chariot. And that was the one I was mostly concerned about trying to find in the garden. The little bees, actually, they seemed very chariot-y to me, obviously, with their little haunches full of pollen, just doing the work. Like, motivation embodied is bees. But at the same time, those little bees, those weren't honeybees, those were bumblebees, those were solitary bees, right? Like, they go about their lives alone, and what they're harvesting is for themselves, and they kind of give me full-on hermit vibes. Those are hermit bees. They're out during the day collecting pollen and the nectar, but they don't operate in groups. Like, the vast majority of bees in the world are solitary bees. The vast majority of bees in the world are hermit bees. And the ones that live in colonies are mostly honeybees. There's a lot less of them around, so anyway, that's where I saw the hermit. But I could sit and stare at bees all day. I love them. They're just so, especially bumblers, oh my gosh. They just wobble and wibble and like crash into things and lose their footing here, there, clamber all over all the plants, like as it was like weaving its way through the bugleweed there. It was adorable. Love that. So yes, the hermit. Well, let's not jump too far. Let's not tangent right into there. Let's talk about strength for a little bit, because this one is important for me, because this is my sun sign card. And actually the hermit is my moon sign card, so we're kind of all crammed together, and the chariot is my Venus sign card, so all of these land firmly within my planetary chart. But strength, ruled by the sun. The garden, also ruled by the sun. The reason that the plants know when and what to do, when to come and go, is sun related. How much sun in any given day will trigger, along with temperature, and temperature is usually quite related to the cycles of the sun. So both I and my plants have that in common. We are both very much ruled by the sun, and our actions and behaviors are tied very strongly to the cycles of the big shiny fireball floating over our heads every day. So their tenacity to grow in whatever places is a very, very strength quality to me. That lettuce growing in like the craggy rocks at the edge of the potager garden, like, that seeded itself there. I did not plant that there, but there it is, lettuce growing happily in the cracks. And you can't help but admire things for that. It's like seeing a dandelion, a very solar plant also, by the way, tenacious, growing in the cracks of pavement, you know, in some massive urban landscape. But that little seed wandered its way in there, found its way, and is just happy as a clam. So do thoroughly enjoy that. Where's the strength card from the Drowning World Tarot? I just love it. It's beautiful. It's a stunning card. These are huge too, by the way. These are not little cards, but this is a really good depiction of like the soft strength aspect, as opposed to like, what are some other ones? That's big strength. It's like, well, this one like, it's lust card adjacent as well, and that's something else I didn't even really talk about so far. The strength, lusty attributions in various decks, and that's what it is. It is that force that pushes, that drives, that gives us, like having the Chariot and strength right next to each other there. They're both very similar in that motivation aspect, right? Chariot is pure will, right? Get her done, go, do. Strength is the desire to do. So when you have those two things together, woof, stuff gets done. Which is kind of nice to have the Hermit come right after as like a little calm down, cool down. Let's point some of that energy inwards towards ourselves to kind of figure out our motivate. Like, are we aligned? Is this what we want? Who is I? Who am I? What is I? And then doing the inner work so that we can move on further with the rest of the major arcana. But it's like the Hermit is very much coming up as a realization of self. All of the other characters that the Fool meets on their journey so far are like a teacher. But when you hit the Hermit, it's very much it promptly switches that energy around and points it inside. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You're doing all this stuff. You're learning about the world around you and what's going on. These strong, authoritative figures. And then you've got to go inside all of a sudden. And you have to take all of those previous things from which you have learned already. From the Magician all the way up. And you got to figure out how all those things apply to you, because they do. And it's funny how like we can relate to certain cards in the tarot more than others, right? Some may resonate with us more than others, but we are literally every single card in the tarot pretty much all the time. It's all there. There's nothing that you are not. If you have an adverse reaction to a card, you have to be able to find that within yourself and figure out why. And that's what we're doing. That's the work. That's why we're doing the stuff. So the Hermit card is a very, very important card, and it's a beautiful one, especially in the Marielle. And the little flame in the Hermit's lantern is, you know, the light and spark of yourself and the divine self of your soul. And it guides the way on the internal journey. So yeah, the Hermit's a good card. I find especially a lot of us tarot people, we like the Hermit card. Even in just its most like platonic or like in daily life context, because all of this work that we do is all the time we spend thinking, ruminating, reflecting, reading tarot. It's a very hermity action because it all happens internally. You can't really see all of this. You know, the meditations that we do, the path working, the learning and the journeying and the card reading, everything happens on a non-material plane. You can have like the most incredible experience, like astral projecting yourself into this great, like you can have the most mind-boggling like moments, but they are yours and they're no one else's. You can try to describe them to other people, but they're not gonna get it. They won't understand. They might acknowledge that is something you had and that's great, but it's something you can only ever have for you. Can't record your internal experience to show to someone else. Oh my gosh, could you imagine the future if you could do that? That would be a pretty life-changing situation. Like the closest thing is when we write, when we create, when we, you know, make art, videos, build structure, or just do anything that is a purely creative activity. That's probably the closest thing to sharing our internal experience. And that's what, I don't know, I spend a lot of time very much trying to strive to do that, but at the same time, it's so hard. Like you'll never we'll never be able to really know what's going on inside other people's heads. We can't put ourselves in other people's shoes entirely. It's impossible. When people say, oh, put yourself in their shoes, like, you can try, but you'll never know what it's like. And you have to just be okay with that and worry about your own shoes. I haven't really talked about the other two cards, the other two step-ins in the Marielle Tarot too. So we have our two wolves, being the Seven of Wands and the Seven of Cups. And then you hop over to the Seven of Swords and the Seven of Discs. And the Seven of Swords is our lovely little raven friend. And he is reason. He is the charioteer. He is the one who drives the two wolves, who makes the choices, makes the decisions to move forward. Do love the snake motif in there as well. And then the other one, the Seven of Discs. So we have our, if we're going for Plato's chariot analogy, among all the other, you know, id, ego, super ego, there's a whole bunch of trilogies of power struggle that the chariot metaphor kind of relates to. But that makes the Seven of Discs the actual body of the chariot itself. And that makes sense because the discs are what element? They're earth, they're the material realm, they are the physical thing. So this card's really quite cool because it kind of looks like the sun cresting behind two mountains, either coming up or coming down, but it's also a figure who has wings like a raven, which is very interesting. And that's an Odin reference as well. These are Odin's two ravens. Thought, so reason, thought, and then this is memory, Munin. But it's also a figure who is walking away and then carrying with it. Those are all the planets, so those are all of the divine essences in the sky floating above us. Each of the four elements is represented in this card as well, so this is very much a coming together card representing the body of the chariot, the vessel with which we carry ourselves through this world, our corporeal essence. This body, this is my chariot. This is what gets the little spark of my hermit soul through the world. And that's quite beautiful. So, yeah. Anywho, thank you so much for being here for this very fun, very casual Garden Arcana video. Thank you, Candy, again for collaborating with me on this wonderful series. I love an excuse to get out into the garden, even on days when it's not the most pleasant ever. And I'm sure it looked great in the photos, but it's crisp. And I have an aversion to cold, which, I mean, makes sense. But anywho, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it, and I will see all you fine people next week. Bye.